role equation between the members. So if there is a conflict between the two, what I'm talking about is if the chairman is speaking to the son or the vice president is speaking to the father, what are the typical challenges that one could face, and what is it that we need to keep in mind while such conversations are triggered?
Yes, I think this is a very fundamental one and you need to cross this threshold. It's at the center of governance. Every family that I work with, this is where we start. Is the daughter talking to the father in the business? Is the daughter talking to the chairman? Is the chairman talking to his son? And so on and so forth. You keep building this. When I facilitate family business, I spend almost 30% of my time in being able to distinguish this. And it's a skill. After some time it becomes easy to distinguish. Each family member is wearing 3 hats. One is a family member, the other is an owner, and third is a manager. And this is the fundamental difference between family and non-family business. In a non-family business, you're wearing 1 hat, maybe 2, but here there are 3. And let's take an investment decision. And there are brother, sister, father, elder brother sitting there. And let's say they've got the best of enterprise risk management processes, strategy, they've got a consultant, all that is taken place. And they say, all right, let's go for this project. Immediately the elder brother is saying, this is the project that my sister has initiated. Dad always used to favor the sister. Boom, there it goes the start of trouble, right? Making these distinctions. For instance, as a son, a father is likely to have a softer heart, be more generous about issues, and we are talking performance appraisal. So how do you expect a father to do a performance appraisal of his son? You have 4 secretaries more than you need. We are reducing your petrol expenses. Just what? Because dining table at home. You say, Dad, what did you do? You've reduced my entire facilities and you insulted me in front of the professionals. Boom. I won't go on with it, but you get the flavor of it. And these differences affect the quality of business decisions. Create what are called governance mechanisms. A family council will deal with family issues. So I have to wear only 1 hat there. It's matter simplified. An owner's council will deal with ownership issues. Only 1 cap. And a board will deal with business issues. So creating different forums or fora, whichever way you want to call it, is a way of helping families decide and keep this governance as clear as possible. This is a very, very fundamental thing. I recently worked with another, these 3 children were acquiescing to everything that the papa was saying. And he was an entrepreneur still at heart, in his 80s, and he would invest in the best of technology, etc. Return on investment, it will come. And one of his daughters is the finance director. And she was, very, very frustrated, trying to get her father not to do the things he's doing in terms of investment. So these are quick examples, but very central piece. So there you see, holy grail for family business is one voice. If you have LIC on your board as one of the directors and representations in the board, they come with one voice. They come with a mandate to the board. So in the board, family directors need to have one voice on many issues. How to get that? $1 million question, but that's where we want to get.
I was talking about this one voice that we need to bring in. One of the key factors that actually helps us to get this piece going is what we call it as the family enterprise governance or family governance, what is known. There are three things that are very important in terms of family governance. The definition of it is there right on the top. One is in terms of decision making. The other is the roles that the members of the family play. And third is the fair process. So PM, how crucial is it to have a family governance structure, for the decision making process? Can you give me some examples in terms of few areas which could influence?
There are different points of view, but before we go to structures actually come a little later. The equation or the flow goes something like this. Good family relationships, meaning robust family relationships, where you can say tough things and still love each other, like each other. Good, robust family relationships lead to robust family governance. Robust family governance leads to robust corporate governance. Robust corporate governance leads to development institutional. So the entire aspect of managing relationships first is important before you start managing structures. Many family businesses straight away go to lawyers, accountants, get a shareholder agreement drafted, trust deeds drafted, and they don't work at the basis of trust, the basis of values, the fundamentals on which the shareholder agreement or the trust deeds will be based. So that's very, very important part. So most often, if you set up good decision-making processes, for instance, one of the most important things in a family business to grow is to have some third party evaluate the risks of your investments. In family business, it's as important, if not more important, to allocate risks as much as you allocate capital. So I would easily say that family business is about allocating risks, not as much about allocating capital. So decision making, which is professional, is very important, because family members or owners are prone to idiosyncratic whims and fancies. You know, I met this guy, I was traveling from Delhi. He says, hockey is a damn good business. IPL, cricket, now we should go to hockey. Or, somebody else told me that, we can set up a business, BPO, KPO. We have got some land in Kakinada. I want to set up a KPO. So each of these become playgrounds for family owners. And it's important for us to put some method to how those investments will be made. So decision making about policies, about succession, about hiring new people, all of that. Second is roles. Who will play what role? Very often that is a trigger for conflict or difference. And last one, fair process. A fair process in a family is very, very important. So I got somebody talking to me. So he said, yeah, fair process is very important. One of my uncles told me, this is what he did. There are two brothers, so he told one brother, you divide all our businesses and estates into two. Fair process, right? A very simple fair process. So, fair process in everything. A fair process says, if the process is transparent, if the process is agreed, if the process is known in advance, then the outcome doesn't matter. Most people don't actually crib about the outcome when the process is straight. So these are three processes that are very important.
May not be equal. Generally the myth that we carry is that when we talk about fair processes, it's all about being equal. No, it may not be so. I saw one hand going up.
I have one on business, just to ensure the transparency.
Goda, can you just repeat the question?
Yes, it is relevant. We don't call it whistleblower, but as part of the process of writing a constitution, which means a lot of dialogue between the thing happened that is not kosher, not as agreed, they would raise an alarm. I know one family, we decided a new structure. A consultant was appointed, a new structure was decided. We had taken that structure through the spouses of the family. We had taken the structure through some senior professionals. And we were about to take that structure to the board of directors and then to the larger group of professionals, 200 people, something like this, sitting in the evening. Suddenly at 11 o'clock I got a call the previous evening from one of the family members saying, you know, I'm not so clear that this structure or this, my role in this structure fits, or something like that he started. And there started a whole process. And you have the whole 6:30 next evening is the larger gathering. 10:30 in the morning is the board of directors. We've already taken it through all of this. This family came to a shrieking halt. We met at 7:30 in the morning, sorted this out in time for this meeting. So that's a whistleblower example. And it's a big one, big piece. Had we gone through this mechanically, it would have rebounded later. So that's an example within the family. Many family businesses have a whistleblower policy in any event, like any other non-family business in the organization as well. That I won't talk about, I'll just keep to the space.
Yeah, so taking this further, we come to the space of, what are the complexities of family business. So he spoke about 3 circles. We have a family circle, we have a business circle, and we have an ownership circle. We typically are looking in terms of 2 circles where there is a distinct overlap, the family and the business. The way we process a particular situation from a family circle is quite different from the way we process things from a business circle as such. And the key thing that is to be noticed is that most of the friction and conflict that you see is in the intersection area between family and business. An interesting term that has been given for this area that intersects between family and business, from a non-family executive perspective, it is called as the no man's land. Because this part doesn't belong to the family, nor does it belong to the business. And that's the, an area which is undefined, and it is the manner in which we define that space that makes a lot of difference. So PM, one of the key things that comes to our mind is, given that the way we handle a particular situation, if we were to look at it from a family circle vis-a-vis a business circle, how do you handle that? Because as a person, I may belong to the family circle, and I also belong to the business circle. And given a situation, I need to do that. So how do you get that balance, or how do you approach it?
Yeah, see, one circle is socialistic, the other is capitalistic, right? So take one example. We want to decide compensation for family members in business. The socialistic part of family will say equal compensation. The capitalistic part of family business will say according to performance. So what's the sweet spot? I'll leave the question. To understand this, you need to understand one fundamental skill required to navigate a family business through its long journey. And that is the skill of managing a paradox. A paradox is when 2 truths meet. Which truth will prevail? Call it contradictory truths. So families need to learn to pick that sweet spot. Should we go long run? Should we go short run? Is it family first or business first? Is it business first? For instance, family first or business first, if you get into a joint venture, you have a joint venture and you have a company and you want to open it up to private equity or another joint venture partner, he's going to demand a board seat, maybe more. You're going to dilute your equity. So the other paradox immediately is liquidity first or family first. Which comes first? So let me start with the other. So in this is another paradox. Now my younger brother is the chairman of that company. So that's fine. They want a co-chairman because they are investing 49%. Oh, different examples of nature. Or my third cousin is going to lose his job because we are seeking infusion of capital. So which comes first? The dilemma here is to be able to solve that paradox. So generally, you take a long-term view, is the sweetest in family business.
We'll dwell upon the paradox a little bit more as we go to the later part, because it's a choice between two right answers, and or it may not be even a choice. It's about accepting both and looking at it in terms of how do we implement it. Taking this further, there's an interesting piece that is there in family business, and it is said that family grows faster than business. Yeah. And the pictorial representation of this goes like this, that when the founder starts the business and he grows it, just for the sake of a number, it becomes a 1,000 crore entity. He's managing the business pretty well. Everybody accolades him. It's a profitable business, doing very well. And then the next generation comes in. 2 sons, 3 sons comes into the business. So they are supposed to inherit what the founder has created. So from a simple math perspective, 300 crore entity to each one of them. But the aura of the company was 1,000 crore. Okay? And here we see each one of them inheriting something like 300 crores. And if you see it goes to the next generation, if I were to look at it from a 3rd generation, it will become even smaller. So what are we talking about? By the time we reach the 3rd generation, the size of the family relatively looks bigger than the size of the business. Right? Now the question to you, PM, is that this is something that we have seen in some of the businesses as it goes from generation to generation. What is it that the family can do, A, at the founder stage, B, at the sibling stage, to ensure that the growth of the business is in line with the growth of the family as such? Few things that strikes your mind which could make a difference to the family.
These need not, I'll sort of meander about and come back. Families can be at 3 levels. You can have an operating family, you can have a strategic family, you can have an ownership family, you can have an active owner, passive owner. So it depends where you want to pitch yourself. If you want to pitch yourself as an operating family, then much of this, there's not enough jobs for family members, right? And that creates, its own complications. However, if you get slightly from owner to strategic, or play somewhere in between there, you'll realize that to grow the business, you need to diversify. And therefore, you don't diversify to create opportunities for family business. Paradox, question 1. Do I diversify to give jobs to my family business, family members, or do I take the merit of the opportunities available and then design my family roles accordingly? So one of the things is diversification, more businesses. But more importantly, in each of these, in each of these stages, in each of these scenarios, it's very important for family not to sacrifice what's good for the business in preference to the family roles. That's the essence. But to get them to do that is difficult, right? That's by and large, and the last one is the important one. How do you move from a family business to a business family? I've already taken that discussion with you.
For a business to be successful in a 2nd generation or 3rd generation, do you think involving your 2nd generation from the start makes it, rather than getting them only when, okay, you finish your graduation, you come to a level, then I'll involve you in the business? What do you think?
The earlier the better.
Earlier the better?
Just one very quick thing. In non-family businesses, you focus on the leadership pipeline. In family, and the leadership pipeline. And if you want to build the entrepreneurship pipeline, you catch them young. There are There are examples of very, very progressive family businesses in this country where the 8-year-old child goes to a crocodile farm during the vacation to have fun, of course, but also to test risk ability. So the Entrepreneurial Development Institute in Ahmedabad has programs for 10-year-olds, 12-year-old family business people to develop a sense of entrepreneurship in them right from the beginning. And that is a story that will answer everything up to succession. Thank you for that question. Very important. As an example, I'm recognizing this, the family directors rotate jobs every 3 to 4 years. So I can't say that this is my business, I built it. That fusion, that identity, connecting with that business is diluted. To complicate matters further, Inba, all family businesses have trophy assets, emotional assets, and economic assets. So if I want to divest and recycle my funds, which one will I sell? Second thing about Indian family businesses, and perhaps also, family business and social status are linked. We've had many people, many particularly spouses of less successful family business leaders say, my God, who we were, what legacy we had. Now see where we are. I go to family, I go to social settings, nobody even talks to me nowadays. Alright? So this is where it plays. What this comes in from the social setting, influences the business setting, etc. In a non-family business, okay, let's say you work 18 hours a day, you still go home, and you don't have to talk to your sister with whom you have worked through the day, etc. That is one. Second thing about business and strategy, when a family business starts to plateau relative to the market opportunities, sure enough, the family is not aligned around the strategy. They're going round and round the mulberry bush for a long time. So when somebody comes and says to me, our business is not growing, immediately, among other things, I start exploring the degree of their alignment around the strategy. So these are issues of interconnections that I'm trying to bring into the picture.
Keep in mind, and this is more from a pure play financial perspective. We talk about liquidity, we talk about profitability, we talk about equity, we talk about revenue. A lot of times, when they go through this particular phase, the debate is liquidity or growth. So if it's growth, then comes with that is something called as risk. And then, yes, I want to take the risk, then it comes in terms of, okay, equity comes in. And then over a period of time, I'm assessed in terms of what is the profitability for the assets that I have invested in. So when you look at the entire equation as such, it's not as simple as we are talking about, because it all depends upon what is the premise on which the family is operating. Is it liquidity? Is it growth? Again, market opportunities in terms of how the industry might be growing, but my business per se has reached a state of maturity for lack of ability of funds. Or it could be the other way around, where the industry is in a growth, where the industry has matured, but I am still in the growth path because there is enough space. So then what is the call that I need to take? And then it also comes from the generation, whether it is the founder generation looking at the entire thing, or is it the sibling generation looking at the entire thing, or is it the next generation? So all these things put together, you have to look at these three stages. It's not in isolation.
Just one or two more quick ones. Intergenerational conflict. Son returned from MIT, let's go new age business. Father doesn't understand new age business, he doesn't understand valuation that comes from multiples of top line. He doesn't understand this. And his son or daughter is pushing him to invest in that business. It is going to take a long time, right, before they decide what to do. There is more and more pressure amongst the younger generation to push their older generation into newer businesses or whatever we call. And this is where we are in India today. It's a reality, and several senior and junior members are struggling with this as to where should they head.
Excuse me. HR person do? Because there is not much in HR education about family businesses. I think that'll be good time spent at this moment.
Quite largely from my own personal experience, understanding entrepreneurship and keeping the entrepreneurial spirit alive both in the family and in the business is a very important competence. And this is very unique to family business. In non-family business, they call it enterprise, proactivity, but here it's about risk and all of that. So that's one piece. Professionalization. When you join a non-family business, you're already joining a professionalized setup, right? If you join a family business as it's emerging, there are multitude of challenges in professionalizing. It's not just recruiting professionals. That's the last one actually. It's about getting them to move away from anecdotes to trends, getting them to move from subjectivity to data. It's getting them to move from ad hoc to systematic. And all these are huge mind shifts. That's the second piece. Family businesses, these bits that we're talking about, I link it back to family business success. Family businesses that retain the entrepreneurial spirit age less. The aging of an organization, if you look at it as a biological organism, is related to entrepreneurship. The less the entrepreneurship, the more the aging of an organization. Professionalization. The less they are professionalized, the more risk there is to the organization's longevity. Employee belonging. Most family business research across the world suggests that employee connect with family businesses is higher. And I'll break this down very quickly. There are 3 contracts that all employees, all of us are surrounded by and then we sort of sign up to. One is the economic contract. That's the same family, non-family. The other is professional contract. What is my role? What are my KRAs? What is the outcome? Whom do I report to? All the professional contract. But there's a third contract, which is the psychological contract. Now, family businesses, because family, as particularly in the developing countries and even in other countries,